Alright, so what is up guys? Nick here helping you to master your technology. Galaxy S22 Plus versus the iPhone 13 Pro. Now I will have the green model versus the green. We'll check out these greens when I get my next week off pre-order. But for now we're going to look at the Sierra Blue versus the green S22 Plus and talk about which is the better buy. These are both coming in at $999, so you're looking at $1,000 a pop for either one of these devices if you decide to pick one up. So they're up there, and you can get some custom colors here for the Samsung. You can also get now the green for the 13 Pro. So let's talk about the difference in the body, the build, the design. Well, first of all, the Galaxy S22 Plus is thinner and lighter than the iPhone 13 Pro, even though the 13 Pro does give you a smaller 6.1 inch display versus a 6.6 inch display on here. So that's pretty incredible that Samsung was able to make this lighter and thinner than the iPhone 13 Pro while remaining quite a bit similar on the edges being a little bit squared, both having flat displays. I pretty much sum it up like this. I feel like the Samsung is a sleeker, lighter. It's a premium sleek light device. The iPhone is a luxurious, more compact, heavier device right here. That's basically what I'm feeling with both of these, but they're both gorgeous piece of hardware and they're quite similar looking overall, except for the cameras. That's how you can really tell them apart, and the notch versus the punch hole here on the Samsung. You could tell them apart pretty easily in that respect. Other than that, they both feel very good. I would say though, I'm a little bit more impressed with, again, how Samsung was able to get this bigger display, be lighter than this phone, while also giving a larger battery than the iPhone 13 Pro. But the 13 Pro, to me, still feels more luxurious than the Samsung, so it's got something going for it as well. Other than that, they do have pretty similar, Gorilla Glass on the front and the back of the iPhone 13 Pro. Samsung has the latest Gorilla Glass Victus Plus on the front and the back, but you are going to get aluminum armor frame here. It's supposed to be a little bit better with the drop protection, scratch resistance, but you do get the stainless steel, which is still kind of unique to the iPhone, and that's one of the things that really sets it apart and gives it that really premium body. So definitely, again, you're not going to go wrong either way. IP68 dust and water resistance on both. Now when it comes to the displays, I wasn't able to pick a winner here, and the reason for this is because they both have features and strengths over one another. Now, for example, the Samsung, I think, has a sleeker, more all-screen like feel. You have the notch here on the iPhone, which allows you to know that's definitely an iPhone. It's unique to the iPhone brand. Also, you do have punch hole there, which is quite thin compared to some of the older, larger punch holes. But they decided to go with a 1080p panel here once again on the Plus line, which definitely makes it feel less premium in display than the iPhone 13 Pro, which does feature a much higher density of 460 ppi versus 393. Now, those specs might not seem like nothing, but I assure you at nighttime, if you look at both of these, the iPhone 13 Pro is a little bit sharper. Throughout the day, it doesn't really matter. Now, where the Samsung does win out though, is it has a brighter panel and a more saturated, vivid look. So if that's something you care about, you'll really enjoy the Samsung. I also think it's a great value add that on the Samsung device, you are getting the ability to tweak this 1750 nit by itself. But the value add I was speaking about is the fact that you're getting a 6.6 inch panel versus a 6.1 at the same price. If you want to get the iPhone 13 Pro Max with a 6.7, which is actually only 0.1 inch bigger than this, you'll have to pay S22 Ultra like prices there. The iPhone 13 Pro wins out again for me is it simply looks sharper. Right now it's a little bit smoother too because the updates have been out for a while coming out on the iPhone, whereas this one's a little bit choppy in some areas, but for the most part it's pretty darn good. Samsung needs an update because there's some little glitches here and there on the display sometimes, but the iPhone really smooth and very accurate. So again, I just couldn't pick a winner. There's too many good things about each of them, and really I think it'll come down to, do you want the bigger size or do you want the sharper display? That's how I would pick between both of these. If you want more saturation too, go with the Samsung. If you like a more accurate tone down look, you like a more compact display, go with the iPhone. It's going to be great. If you do a lot of media watching, there's also a video mode setting in here. So if we go into settings, you can just type in video brightness on here and you'll be able to advance you'll be able to go ahead and add video brightness to different applications. So you can click bright and put it in things like video player, and it really enhance the brightness and stuff like that. And one last note I want to make about the Samsung is that the Samsung now has a 19:9 aspect ratio, which means that the display is just as wide as an iPhone. It's no longer narrower like the Samsung Galaxy S21 series. So you definitely get more width on the panel, which is quite nice. Let me know which one you would pick and display down below. All right, so when it comes to software, if you're deciding between these $2,000 smartphones here, it's like I feel like I've been saying this over and over again. It's customization, it's multitasking, split screen. If you see my recent videos, nothing changes here. The key feature to understand about this Samsung S22 Plus though is that there's no S Pen support. So this is going to be just the pure, Samsung Galaxy S-like experience. No S Pen. This is not a Note-like experience over here. This is much more just a direct competitor to the iPhone experience over here, which is just, your apps, you got your customization on here. But One UI 4 makes things like the edge panels possible for this Samsung over here, allowing you to split the screen, add things into pop-up view and stuff like that. And it all runs very smooth because this does have 8 GB of RAM. That's quite nice. In addition to that, with Android 12, you do have different color palettes and theming options from the Galaxy Store here as well. So you can change the color palettes here. You can apply that palette to the icons as well, depending on which color suits your needs. So even cleaner, even nicer than ever before. And this phone is going to be getting updates for several years to come. Now, the iPhone, though, has beautiful consistency. Taking a look at the app library, you'll see even the folders match up nice and rounded, just like the icons here. If we go ahead and add a widget, how about weather, for example, this weather application right here also matches the app library. So the consistency is here. In addition to that, you will have, a nice control panel up here. Over here, you have a quick setting menu up here. One UI brings things a little bit more closer to a one-handed feel and a little bit more customization up there, whereas Apple kind of puts it their way, but at the same time, it's very clean and polished. I do think the iPhone experience on software is still a little bit more polished and gets updates much faster because the rollouts globally can just take, a week or two here. One country will get it and then the other country won't for a while and stuff like that. So it's still a better software update experience here, but at least Samsung's now giving you 4 years. Again, it comes down to that practicality, that feature set, what matters to you, customization or simplicity, and your ecosystem that you've been using for several years. With the iPhone, which one suits you more? That's really what the decision you got to make. I really can't make that decision for you. You kind of should probably already know this at this point. And if you're an open book and you're ready to try something new, you might want to try Samsung. If you're an open book, you want to try something new from the Samsung side, you might want to try the 13 Pro. Either way, they're pretty similar hardware, but a very different software experience that can be enjoyable and fun to try if you haven't tried one or the other. I will say the iPhone wins in performance, and the reason why is that it just feels more consistent smooth all the time. Now, the Samsung phone, don't get me wrong, is very smooth, but I've already seen some little display glitches here and there, and the iPhone 13 Pro has always been smooth from the start. It never, ever felt lag whatsoever. Now, I don't really feel lag per se on the Samsung, but I do get a little bit of, adaptive refresh glitching here and there where it'll just kind of chop a little like that while you're scrolling. You kind of just seen it right there. Little stuff like that. So I just think a couple updates with these S22 Pluses, and they still haven't come yet. I'm still waiting for them. And I think we're going to see a much different experience. So my thoughts could change. But as of right now, I got to say, for the most part, about 95% of the time, this is quite smooth as well. And it's not going to be a make or break. Like, if you want the Samsung, you're still going to be happy. But if you want the smoother, faster feeling phone, I think the iPhone takes the cake here. Especially, it still does it in Geekbench. It still does it in rendering. It stays a little bit cooler under heavy use. Now, I definitely geeked out a little bit earlier about this phone not having a sharper display, but that decision actually makes the battery life quite good on this phone. This phone does feature a 4500 milliamp hour battery inside, which I think is down from the S21 Plus. However, it still charges at 45 watts, which is faster than the iPhone. I think I said watts, which is faster than the iPhone. But the battery life on here, the screen time, pretty solid, and we're looking at around 6-7 hours or so. But the battery life, on standby still creeps down from 100 to 90. it's not super impressive, but it's a day phone for sure. Definitely better than the smaller S22. Now, the iPhone 13 Pro is quite impressive though, considering this phone has over 1000 milliamp hours less. I find it to get a little bit better battery life than that S22 Plus. It just holds its own. It lasts a day easily, and I think for some people could stretch into 2, whereas the 13 Pro Max can easily complete a full 2 days. This one is about a day and a half. So really good here for being the size it is. It just goes to show how well optimized this device is. So if you want better battery life, I think you're going to be happier here with the iPhone. Now, if you want more storage, you're going to have to go with Apple this year. Now, I specifically have the 256 gig version of the S22 Plus, but the Apple device offers up to 1 TB of storage, and this is kind of funny because before I used to brag about how Samsung had the expandable memory. Not here today, and you can't even get this phone with 512 or 1 terabyte on the S22 Plus, which is a shame. It feels like a forced upgrade to the S22 Ultra for those of you who want more storage. Somebody mentioned that you can do OTG storage and kind of just easily transfer stuff right through the USB-C port, which does make a lot of sense, but yeah, I still like just having my SD card right in the phone. So if you want more storage, Apple is the way to go. So let's discuss the cameras. We have a triple camera setup here on the S22 Plus and a triple camera setup here on the iPhone 13 Pro. Right away, I just want to say the iPhone 13 Pro's camera look a little bit more in your face. Samsung's a little more sleeker off to the edge. I call it the traffic light camera setup. Over here, this is the stovetop setup, but check it out. We're going to go ahead and take a look at these right here. Both of them have very similar features. The first thing you open up, you're going to see 1x. You can go that ultra wide. You can go 3x on here and 3x on the right. But the iPhone can only top out at a 15x zoom. Over here, you can top out at a 30x. Now, when it comes to the video modes though, you have cinematic video on here, which is a very useful video if you want to do cinematic, pro-like stuff. It blurs the background. Samsung does have a similar feature in the form of portrait video right here. And then again, in the camera is where you really notice that Samsung is really bringing a feature set. However, on the front-facing camera, you have a 12 megapixel on the iPhone over here, and on the front-facing camera on the Samsung, it's a 10 megapixel. I think Apple does better with the skin tones right out of the gate. They look a little bit more realistic. Samsung's photos tend to look a little bit brighter, but a little bit softer and a little bit cooler, in my opinion. Sometimes on the rear, though, they do look a little bit sharper, but Apple's nails the color accuracy and stuff like that. To check out some samples, go take a look at my S22 Ultra versus iPhone 13 Pro Max and my 13 versus S22. These cameras are about the same, so I didn't go ahead and do more samples with the same type of cameras. I'll leave those linked down below, or you could check them out right here in the card. Now, the Samsung phone does get a little bit louder when it comes to the audio, but the Apple iPhone's audio I found to be very clear at the high end. So you'll have to enable the Samsung in the mode. They have their Dolby Atmos mode up here. So we'll go up here to edit buttons, and it's not on by default. You got to drag it into this section right here. We'll go to Dolby Atmos right here. When you're inside there, you'll see auto movie music. I leave it on auto. It's pretty good overall though. And then in the area of the phone call quality for the Samsung, I gotta say, it's so good. Like, you have great signal strength all the time. Apple too though, because with the Qualcomm modem setup, you got 5 bars pretty much all the time on either, and both support 5G. Both very good in both of these areas. I do want to briefly touch on biometrics. Face ID is super accurate and very good on different angles now for our 13 Pro here in 2022. Samsung does have their own face unlock, but it doesn't really do much in terms of security because, it's just your face. It's not like a scanner or anything like that. It's just a camera doing that. Now, you'll want to use the in-display fingerprint sensor, which I find to be incredibly accurate here on the S22 Plus. So I think you'll like this as well. It just depends on, are you more into a fingerprint sensor or are you more into a Face ID? But I will say though that I kind of wish that both of these had their own hardware-based fingerprint sensor. It would be nice to just have a hardware-based, easy peasy, just accurate all the time, because sometimes you can miss on the Samsung, and sometimes Face ID can miss too, depending on if it's too dark, or, maybe you got the wrong angle, or you're just looking at a weird, funny way. They're just not both. They're not, I think, as easy to use as a physical fingerprint sensor, but they're both really high tech feeling. That's cool. I do want to point out that you do have the ability to use DeX on this phone, which will allow you to attach to a monitor, turn this thing kind of into a computer. And I also want to make a mention that the iPhone 13 Pro is still going to be the option for those of you who love iMessage and FaceTime. Those features, you have to get an iPhone for that. But what I will tell you is that in terms of ecosystem, you have watches here for the Samsung, you have Apple Watches for the Apple, you do have Samsung kind of making their own laptops with Windows OS, you know, and you do have, you know, Macs and stuff like that. Apple's ecosystem has been built a much longer time. It's much more polished. And I think if you want your phone and everything to feel the same, I think Apple does a better job here. However, Samsung does have some neat features. Do have quick share, which allows you to like airdrop stuff. And you got airdrop, of course, on the iPhone, which to me is still a little bit better, a little bit further along, a little bit more polished looking. But at the end of the day, which is the better phone for you? It's the same old Samsung versus Apple comparison here. It comes down to, do you want customization, practicality, features, and value here at $999, bigger screen, but not as sharp as the 13 Pro. Really good cameras, but arguably not as good in the social media area. In addition to that, the 13 Pro's cameras are like the ones on the 13 Pro Max. These are a little bit below the S22 Ultra, so I would say the 13 Pro for the camera. And then the battery life, the efficiency of iOS gives it a little bit better battery life, but because Samsung went with a 1080, it's a pretty good battery as well. This is a very, very tough choice, but simply choose Apple or Samsung, whichever one you want. These are playing in the same game at the same level, and I think either way you go this year, you're going to be playing with a really premium device for the rest of the year. So let me know your thoughts, which one you would go with. If you want to see more content on these, let me know down below in the comments section. Thank you very much for watching. Nick here. Be sure to be well. I will catch you all in the next one, and peace.